In the neighborhood, Cordelia had quite the reputation. It was not a good one. It was a very bad one. Remember how I talked about like Cordelia hanging out with the guys and she was like a guy's girl? Well, the women, they didn't like that. And because it's the Victorian era, they were very strict and extremely judgmental back then. Like, ooh, right? Ooh. Like when you brought up Cordelia's name, a look of disgust would come over everyone's faces. Like she was just known as, this is going to sound mean. I didn't say it, but she was like known as the town whore, you know? I'm sorry, Cordelia, don't come for me from the grave. I didn't say it. Your peers did. John was being sloppy. He wasn't trying to hide the fact that he was having an affair or hide the fact that he was hanging out with this new friend, Cordelia, which led to people seeing them and everybody talking. Rumors are swirling, you know, and it wasn't long until John's wife, Mary Elizabeth, found out about his affair. Mary, John's wife, she would stay with John for about a year, and she was trying to figure out what exactly her plan was, you know, because she was feeling super embarrassed. Everybody seemed to know about this affair that her husband's having with Cordelia. She's humiliated. How dare you? Like, with her? So she's trying to figure out what her plan is. What is she going to do? But I couldn't imagine how Mary was feeling because she moves to this new location for her husband's new job, right? She doesn't like it there. She's having a hard time struggling just finding her way in San Francisco. And she voices to her husband that she's unhappy. He's never around. He's always working. And then he has an affair on her with this woman, Cordelia. And she's like, dude, really? So with all this, in 1896, Mary Elizabeth decides to leave him, and she returns to Dover, Delaware, to live with her mother and father. His name was John B. Pennington. He was a working congressman in Delaware. He's kind of like a big deal out there, you know? Man of importance. So Mary Elizabeth takes her little daughter Mary with her, and she gets out of San Francisco, moves in with her parents, and decides just to move on with her life. So now that Mary Elizabeth is gone, she's out of the way, right? John and Cordelia are like, hey, we're free. You know, they're getting it on like teens on spring break. Because there's lots of alcohol, there's gambling, lots of sex. John, who hasn't been living this party lifestyle as long as Cordelia has, I think he does get really wrapped up in it all. He can't keep his shit together. He's going hard. You know those people who are like new to the party game and they're just being idiots, sloppy drunks, losing all their money? That was John. He's just like, fool, what are you doing? Calm down. John's gambling becomes out of control and he racks up a huge debt. So now debt collectors are on his ass and John doesn't have any money. So John's thinking, if I can just take some money from my job and gamble that money, then I could probably make money, pay off my debts, put the money back, and nobody will know. Great plan. Always seems to work, right? And like how usually most gambling addictions go, you dig yourself into a deep, deep hole. So John ends up stealing about $4,000 from his job, which in today's money would be about $126,000 to pay off of his gambling debts. But it didn't take long until his place of work found out that he was indeed stealing money, and then John gets fired. I know, I'm surprised he didn't go to prison for this, but I don't know. The relationship between John and Cordelia would end up lasting almost 3 years. And then in March of 1898, the Associated Press, they were looking for a top-notch reporter to do an excellent reporting because the United States was on the brink of what was about to become the Spanish-American War. So they need someone to report on this, and John is like the best of the best. So John gets hired for the job, and he has this moment of clarity where he's like, okay, I got this great job opportunity. I got to stop partying, this lifestyle, Cordelia, like all of this just isn't for me anymore. John realized that he missed his wife, and he realized that the new job opportunity was a way for him to get out. So John goes to Cordelia and he tells her, hey, I'm going away on assignment and things are over between us. He also went on to say that when he's done with the assignment, he's going to go back to Delaware and try and win his wife back because he missed her deeply. Typical. Now you want me back? Cute. How do you think that's going to go over? I'm sure it's going to go over smoothly. This news to Cordelia was devastating. She's begging him not to go, but he tells her, like, no, he has to do this. I'm leaving. This just isn't for me anymore. So John ends up leaving and he goes to Cuba for his new job opportunity. And Cordelia, she was not having a good time. She was having a very difficult time. Her life was now like at a standstill. She was depressed. She didn't understand why John just up and left her. How could he do this? She gave him a place to live. She gave him everything. Now, as the days go on, her depression now turns into anger. So Cordelia is thinking, if I can't have John, then I guess nobody can have John. I don't know, you guys. I think he has like beer-flavored nipples or something because she wants him bad. Now, back in Dover, Delaware, Mary Elizabeth, John's wife, she starts receiving handwritten letters detailing about the affair John was having in San Francisco. The letters said John was constantly seen around with an extremely attractive woman and that Mary Elizabeth should not take John back if he ever tried to come back to her. Now, Mary Elizabeth is extremely upset by these letters, but she just didn't know what to do with the information. So she takes all the letters and she stuffs them in a drawer. Out of sight, out of mind. So Mary Elizabeth had been getting these letters for about 4 or 5 months. And then on August 9th, 1898, she gets a knock on the door. She opens the door and she finds a gift of chocolate bonbons wrapped in brown paper with a pink satin ribbon. She's like, oh my God, chocolate, yay. So Mary opens up the box and sees that the chocolates are sitting on a lace handkerchief with the price tag still attached. And the note reads, quote, with love to yourself and baby, Miss C, end quote. So Mary's thinking that the Miss C stood for Miss Corbally. It was one of her friends that she made back in San Francisco. So she's like, oh my God, that is so sweet of her. I'm going to save these chocolates for after dinner. So she puts the chocolates away and she's like, I cannot wait to enjoy these treats. You know, she had a lot more self-discipline than I do because I would have just eaten the whole box right then and there. Good for her. So Mary Elizabeth and her family sit down to have dinner. Her sister and niece also came over to have dinner with the whole family. They had trout and corn fritters for dinner. So delicious. So again, olden days, no AC. So when you cooked, especially with a stove and stuff, it would get brutally hot in the house. So again, because it's so freaking hot, they go and they sit out on the front porch and they try to just sit there, cool off with the nighttime breeze. While sitting there, you guessed it, Mary was like, oh my God, I should go get those chocolates right now. We can enjoy them while we sit here on the porch. Great idea. So she goes, she gets the lovely gift of chocolates, and she, before going out to the porch, she has 3 pieces for herself, and then she offered some to her family. She's like, this is my box. I'm having 3 pieces. You guys can only have 1. Okay. Now, Cordelia's older sister also loves chocolate, so she helped herself to a couple pieces. And then the neighbors, their kids came over and they're just hanging out and they took 1 piece each. Mary's mom and her dad passed on the chocolate. They were like, we don't want any. It's okay. Thank you. So they eat their chocolate and just enjoy the evening with each other's company. Then a couple of hours go by. And everyone who ate the chocolate started getting really bad stomach aches. And then all of a sudden started barfing, throwing up. Oh, God. Now, everyone is puking, okay? Except for Dad. Mary Elizabeth's dad, he calls the doctor because everyone is puking. And he's the only one who wasn't sick. So the doctor comes out and he thinks that everybody has food poisoning. Yeah, food poisoning. You know, it must be the corn fritters. Corn fritters were probably bad food poisoning. But Mary Elizabeth's dad didn't think so because he had corn fritters and he wasn't throwing up. After a couple hours of some intense puking, everyone seemed to get better except for Mary Elizabeth and her sister. Both of them were just getting worse. So in addition to vomiting, they were also just experiencing severe stomach pains, like gripping your stomach, Jesus, I'm coming home kind of pains. You know what I'm saying? The first doctor thought that their illness was coming from the corn fritters. And Mary Elizabeth's dad, he knew better. He was like, it's not the corn fritters, okay? Because I'm not sick. I should be sick. And he goes with his gut feeling and he calls another doctor to come and like check on his daughters. So this doctor, he didn't think that it was food poisoning. Nay. He thinks it's a poisoning. The doctor tells the family that he believed they had been badly poisoned. And they're like, oh my God, like, what do we do with this information that you have just given us? And the doctor's like, I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do to save you. Have a good day. And then he takes off. I know, it's definitely useless other than telling them that they were poisoned, but there was literally nothing that he could do for them. He was like, good luck, bye. Their death that these two experienced was pretty hardcore. In addition to the severe stomach pains, they were also experiencing intense bloody diarrhea and delirium, which is basically a fancier word for saying that they were hallucinating. After a few days of this illness, both Mary Elizabeth and her sister die a slow and awful death. So Mary Elizabeth's dad, he now just lost 2 daughters and he's out for blood. He is angry. He wants to track down who did this to them. He's thinking the common thing was that mysterious box of chocolates that showed up, right? Mary Elizabeth and her sisters were the ones that ate most of them and they were the ones that died. So he's thinking that can't be a coincidence.